Hi, welcome back to another monthly wrap up. September has passed and it is, I cannot believe it, the 1st of October. It's my most favorite day of the year. Everyone starts posting autumnal content. The world just seems a little bit more cozier. The world is slowing down for a bit, and the perfect things to do when slowing down are, of course, reading and watching movies or TV shows. So let's talk about what I read and watched last month. Now, if you are subscribed and you've seen my previous monthly wrap-ups, you might have noticed that in the summer months I really haven't been reading or watching that much. Mostly reading though. Last summer I read I remember I was in Bosnia and I read 15 books in 3 weeks. And this summer I barely read 2 books and I really hope that changes this autumn. In September, I got around to reading 2 books, but I do hope that in October we will be able to read more. I already have posted my autumn TBR, so if you want to check that out, that's the last video. And let's get into the 2 books that I did read. These are all part of my. I'm actually not so sure. Did I put these in the haul? I don't know. These are all books that I got relatively new, so I was excited to read them, and I did. And the first one of those is Kill Creatures by Rory Power. Previously, I had read The Wilder Girls by Rory Power, which I liked. It was an okay book. I really wanted to read some of her other works, and I will have to read more of her books after this one. Not too big of a fan of the cover vibe at all, because I wouldn't have picked this up if I didn't know what it was about. So there's that. And if you want to know what this book is about, Kill Creatures follows this one girl called Nan, and in the previous summer, 3 of her best friends disappeared. Now, when we start reading this book, we are at their death anniversary, the vigil, the memorial that's being held for those girls. And very shockingly, that vigil is interrupted by one of the disappeared girls returning. And our main character, and this might seem like a spoiler, but it's revealed in the back of the book, our main girl is the most shocked out of everyone because she's the one who killed the girls. It's just as twisty and turny as it sounds, and you might be able to guess a few plot twists, but I think even despite that, it was still very well written, and I still had a lot of fun, even though I might have guessed a few bits here and there. But overall, there were a lot of things I also couldn't have guessed, and I really tried. This is a YA horror, so don't expect too much in-depth character diving, but that's not what you should expect. This is a very plot-driven book and very backhanded. There's a lot of things happening that not everyone is aware of, and it's very crazy and scary that people are like that. And it's absolutely brilliant, and it's mysterious, and it definitely hooked me. I think I gave this a 4 out of 5. Very YA at points, but that's not a minus point. It's just, something to consider. But I definitely very much liked it. It was so fun to read, and I read the entire thing in one sitting, and that should tell you enough. That's Kill Creatures, and I shall also read you the first line. Also very funny. The dedication in this book is for Spencer Hastings, and if you don't know who Spencer Hastings is, one of the main girlies from Pretty Little Liars. Start with this, with a bruised blue sky. Then the clouds gathered low on the horizon, their bellies bloodshot with sunset, and last, the billboard frame and the picture stretched across it. 3 girls wearing summer smiles. Edie, Jane, and Luce. My best friends, my favorites. Saltstars too, now that they're gone. And that's Kill Creatures. And also if you just like messy girlhood friendships. Then I really went extremely in the other direction and read a book that has been on my radar for many years. I don't know when I first saw it, but I've always wanted to read it. I've always heard good things, and that is Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Basterica. This is an Argentinian book, I think. Tender as the Flesh is a very heavy and different book, and I think it's also the reason I didn't read anything else yet, because I needed a break from reading after this. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. I just needed to process what I read. And I do have to say, I've seen a lot of spoilers or like lines from a book, and I always try to like scroll past it, but sometimes I just wasn't fast enough. Um, so I knew some stuff going into it and how crazy. Oh my god, there's like one single piece of bang that's too long. Tender is the Flash. Is about cannibalism. Tender's The Flash is set in a dystopian world where the government has declared that all of the animals have a virus and they shouldn't be consumed anymore. And because humans are absolutely stupid, they don't turn to veganism, they turn to cannibalism. And that is what this book covers. This is written from the perspective of a meat industry worker, pretty high up worker. His name is Marcus, and it's separated into two parts. And this is such an interesting read. There are truly so many jaw dropping quotes. I literally couldn't. And I knew some of them, but just reading them in the context and what was happening was even more insane. Make up your mind about if you want to read this, because it is very graphic. It doesn't shy away from anything. The humans in this book that are being used, they've strayed so far away from the already very horrific animal meat industry, which is this is why I'm vegan. And they've taken that entire concept and are doing the same thing to humans. And as a vegan, obviously already not okay with the animal normal standard, which is absolutely insane. And yeah, in this book, they're just doing that same bloody process with humans, and it's very much based on race and weight and beauty and discrimination mostly. And it's absolutely insane. And you keep on not knowing where the main character stands. There's not a singular good person in this book, is what I would say. I can't recall anyone actually being a good person, or if there was a good person, that person having enough space to say what they want to say. Because of course the government doesn't want anyone to step out of line, you know. So for a while, I thought that our main character maybe was a good person, and you will just have to read it for yourself to find out if he was. Because the entire read, I was on the fence until some of his choices made it very clear if he's good or bad. But you also, you can't always put stuff into good or bad, black and white, This is not a book where I'm supposed to sympathize with anyone except of the victims, the voices that are silent. Definitely interesting. I think because I'm vegan, I went into this expecting more of criticism to the meat industry in general, which, don't get me wrong, this book absolutely has that. Just the concept of putting, instead of animals, putting humans in those places is enough criticism to the meat industry, because what the fuck are you doing to those poor animals? But yeah, it went into very different sectors, and I think my problem with this book was that it didn't, you know, it went to all of these different and super fascinating directions, and then it went a different route again. And I think if we had like, this is a pretty short book, we could have stayed in some of those places a bit more and actually get to the root of things, the root of problem, explore the theme maybe a little bit more. But despite that, an absolutely wonderful read. I think maybe also 4 out of 5. Looking back at it, I do think when I finished it, I was like, okay, absolutely 5 star. The writing is brilliant. I will definitely read her other work. There were just some things here and there that maybe could have been explored more, like I said. But other than that, if your complaint about this book is that the characters are unlikable, don't read the book, because that's not what you shouldn't like any of them characters. And like I said, please look up trigger warnings. It's very graphic, and if you've been thinking about reading it like I have been for many years, just pick it up because it's really that good. Let's talk about the movies I watched this month, which weren't many at all, sadly. 3 new watches, which is good because I usually tend to rewatch. The first movie I watched this month is actually a sequel to my last wrap up. Because last month I read I Know What You Did Last Summer, the original movie, and this month I say read or watch? I'm obviously talking about movies, so watched. And this month I watched the newest I Know What You Did Last Summer. Came out this year. Directed by Jennifer Caton Robinson, starring Chase Sue Wonders, Madeline Klein, Sarah Pigeon, Jonah Harking, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and many other cool starring guests. Before I continue, if you haven't watched my last wrap up, what are you doing? Also watch that. I beg of you. But also, I had never seen I Know What You Did Last Summer before last month, and I really, really liked it. I just think that 80s/90s summer movies are so fun to watch, and they always have that little something about them that makes them so enjoyable and like a little bit cozy. And also, horror movies back then were just like way more fun, and they were very explored. They were like exploring the genre and trying to figure out how to make it new. And I think modern horror movies might not always be able to replicate that, and I don't necessarily want them to do that because we can just go and watch the old movies for that. Oh, that being said, not always the sequel necessary. But we did have that open end for the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, so a sequel should have been done way earlier, but we have it now. I think the cast was brilliant. Like, really, the script maybe wasn't, because I felt like sometimes you could really notice what was scripted, if that makes sense. But the cast still did incredibly well. I really liked Madeline Klein in this role. I don't know. At the beginning, I was like, ugh, it just doesn't have that same nostalgic feeling as the first one. But then I also just realized, of course, it doesn't. How can something feel nostalgic if it just came out? And it has a very different approach to the styling choices, obviously, and the filming choices, which is very different and feels very different. That doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It might have been. The twists and turns were okay at best. The story, okay at best. A very solid 2.5 star. But this is not a negative review because I would rewatch this. I thought it was fun and enjoyable, and that's what I wanted in this movie, and that's what I got. The next movie I watched was actually a documentary on Netflix, and I watched this with one of my friends, and it's Sweet Bobby, My Catfish Nightmare. This is based on a true story of a woman who was catfished for, I think, a decade. I can't necessarily remember how long it was. Does it say something like that? This was absolutely crazy. I kept on wondering in which direction this would go, because of course it says catfishing in the title, but I was so confused on who's doing the catfishing and what catfishing is being done, and absolutely shocking, and so sorry and disturbed for everyone involved. Definitely had me hooked. There's not much to complain about for a documentary. There are some documentaries who really can't do the hooking that well, where I'm really not, I don't want to say bored, because most of them are based on true stories, but there's still a lot of storytelling involved, and this one very much did that. I was on the edge of my seat waiting for the reveal. Out of the 5 movies that I actually never watched before, which crazy to me that I've never seen this before, is none other than The Lost Boys from 1987, directed by Joel Schumacher. And if you are subscribed, and you might have seen that I posted a ranking tier list from Vampire Media a few months ago, and I was very sad that I couldn't put this on there because I hadn't seen it before, and I know it's like a classic and people love this movie. And I finally watched this. The Lost Boys stars Jason Patric, Corey Haim, Diane Wiest, Barnard Hughes, Edward Herman, which crazy. I did not know about that. I did not know about him. And I obviously a huge Gilmore Girls fan. And I was shocked because his role is also so different, and I've never seen him anywhere but Gilmore Girls, which shame on me, but so fun. Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland, Jamie Gertz, Corey Feldman, brilliant casting, and The Lost Boys is just so incredible. You don't need to know anything else. California 80s goth vampire aesthetic is all you need to know about this. They wear leather, there were motorcycles, they're near the beach, they're absolutely cuckoo bananas. And it's also very heavy on the queer coding. And it's just so fucking fun. I couldn't take my eyes off this movie for one single second because the setting was just that campy. and vivid. They don't do colors like this anymore to sound like a film nerd. And the vampires were just, all in all, very dramatic and sexy. And also having these three like teenage boys fighting old ass vampires, absolutely iconic, living their silly little Ghostbuster dreams. And this is one absolutely a 5-star movie. It's just that great. It's funny, it's entertaining. It's a little bit spooky here and there, and it just has that really good feel to it. The next two movies were also rewatches, and the first out of those was Practical Magic, 1998, directed by Griffin Dunn, starring Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman, and also, surprisingly enough, Diane Wiest. I am so in love with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman in this, and it's no surprise to anyone because they've been gorgeous always, but this movie just captures their beauty so well. And if you don't know, there's like a sequel being made of this movie, and I'm really scared of that because Practical Magic is one hell of a good movie. And I know I previously said you can't just expect a newer movie to have that same nostalgia, but the nostalgia and the whimsy is what makes this movie so great. And if the new one doesn't even come close to that, I don't know why they're doing it, because the whimsy must be met. And if the whimsy isn't met, many people, including myself, will be upset. Practical Magic follows these two girls as they grow up into young women and then into motherhood. On their family, there's a curse that all women who find love shall lose their love in a very tragic way, and they're witches way back when, passed through generations. And we follow Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman's characters as they fall in love, grow apart, grow back to another. Even though they're witches, it's a very natural feeling story, despite them like wishing and acting and, doing witchy stuff. It feels very natural and at points very heartfelt, and I just really, really, really love this movie. And if you, like me, love autumn and still need to catch up on your watching like iconic autumnal movies, please let Practical Magic be a part of that. I love watching in autumn, but I also love watching it in spring, so see whatever fits best for you. It's just so warm and full of magic, and I watched this with a friend and I really do hope she liked it because it's such a great movie in my eyes. To no one's surprise ever, I don't know if it's on camera, but I have a huge poster of it, and it's Dead Poet Society, 1989, directed by Peter Weir, starring Robin Williams, Robert Sean Leonard, Ethan Hawke, many, many, many fabulous actors. If you're here, you probably know Dead Poet Society. And I could not even know how to give you a summary because I have very Neil Perry and Todd Anderson as they attend this very posh all-boys school in the 80s. And on one hand, we have Todd Anderson, who's this very shy and anxious kid who wants to have good grades and needs to meet the expectations set on him because of his older brother that has also attended the school and was very beloved there. And on the other hand, we have Neil Perry, who comes from not that much of a wealthy family, but they are hard workers, have gotten their wealth, and have put this kid in that school. And while he's a very good boy, sorry, while he does all the things that are asked of him, he's a brilliant student. He has a passion for the arts, and those two we follow. And then also, this school gets a new English teacher, played by the wonderful Robin Williams. Mr. Keating is also a big fan of the arts, and he teaches English very differently. And these two boys and some of their other classmates and best friends form a club that's based on history called Dead Poet Society. And you learn to love them, and then you cry. But this is the coziest and most academia movie ever. And if you're anything like me, or if you have any sense of media literacy, this is also a very queer movie. And I'll let it stay with that. And also, it's just generally a really, really, really great movie, and you can tell how much love and passion went into it. And I just really love Robin Williams and Robert Sean Leonard and Ethan Hawke. Anyway, those are all the books and movies I watched and read this month. If you've read or seen any of these, please let me know your thoughts in the comments, and also please let me know what you read or watched. Did you have any favorites? Did you hate anything? And yeah, if you haven't yet, please subscribe and comment. It helps me out a lot. And I'll see you in the next one, which might be me rereading a very special series that had its 10th anniversary this week. Who knows? See you in the next one. Bye bye.